Welcome to Insight and Influence, a podcast presented by C&G Strategies, bringing you insightful conversations from influential people, including government officials, industry leaders, and advocates from across the state.
Welcome to Insight and Influence. I'm Rob Vescio from C&G Strategies. Today we have Matt Galluzzo from Riverlife. Welcome.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time. So, Riverlife, why don't you explain the organization, what you guys are working on?
Yeah, so we're a 26-year organization. We've worked to create and activate and celebrate Pittsburgh's riverfronts. Over the last 26 years, we've invested about $150 million in the riverfront system. And so some of the signature spaces that you and I love, Point State Park, Mon Wharf, South Shore Riverfront Park, I think we've had a hand in every single signature move, either investing directly or cajoling developers or partnering with other agencies to make the riverfront shine. And so I joined the organization 6 years ago yesterday.
Wow.
Okay. And not that I'm keeping score. And, really with the charge of sort of setting the next chapter of the organization. And that includes sort of filling some of the gaps in our riverfront system. We oversee a 15-mile, 1,000-plus acre geography of parks, trails, and open. 15 miles.
15 miles.
So if you go from the 31st Street Bridge on the Allegheny down to the West End Bridge on the Ohio and up to the Hot Metal Bridge on the Mon, that's about a 15-mile loop on the riverfront trail. And so there are gaps in that system that we are addressing, like the West End Bridge, but also gaps in experience. So like the Sister Bridges is an area where we've spent a lot of time and energy to try and really bridge the gap, figuratively and physically, between the cultural district and the North Shore amenities like the Warhol.
That's fantastic. What kind of projects are you working on right now? What's the latest?
Yeah, so we just introduced a barge on our riverfronts called Shore Thing.
Very popular.
It's... you never know what an experiment like that's going to bring, but to have introduced the first water-based amenity for riverfronts in Pittsburgh in the last 30 years has been a real joy to see how people are interacting with that space. In addition to that, we're doing park redevelopments like Allegheny Riverfront Park in advance of the draft, sort of along Fort Duquesne Boulevard. We are in pre-development on a number of park and open space projects, and then transportation projects like the West End Bridge, where we're spending a ton of time trying to figure out how we, address gaps in multimodal system there. So new trails, new open spaces along that stretch.
And so, city, county, state, you have good support from a lot of the electeds, and because I know the history of railroads on our waterfronts and so forth has always been a challenge.
I think historically there was a lot of convincing that this organization and others needed to do that riverfronts could be amenities for this region. I think that's ubiquitous now. People really do appreciate private developers, even our industrial interests, understand that the calling card, the value proposition for this region is really our riverfronts. And so, I don't think we're fighting the same fights as we were historically. There are always challenges. There are always, I think, nuances with various public agencies, with various utility agencies. But I think generally our work is to, make sure that the riverfronts are accessible and welcoming to everybody.
So one of the tools you use is the waterfront development tax credit.
Yeah.
Can you explain it?
Yeah. So in 2016, we worked with then Senator Randy Volakovich Sr. and Senator Jay Costa to create the first waterfront development tax credit in the country, first and only at this point. And what it allows us to do is to partner with corporate entities, and they receive a 75% tax credit for investing directly in our projects. And so a great example is Shore Thing, our barge. We had several corporations, UPMC Health Plan and Highmark and Duquesne Light, First National Bank, and the Gateway Clipper, all received a 75% tax credit for making cash donations to that project. And so for us, it's a great tool because it allows us a unique resource, but it also creates better corporate citizens. Those corporations are really allowed to look at where they're investing in our in our region for public benefit, but also benefits to their employers. And so over the past several years, we've received about $1.5 million in direct investments from corporations to support projects
Fantastic.
like that one. Yeah.
Wow. What's on the horizon? You have other things, or is this the barge is like what you're working on right now just to make sure that it's happening and working well, but you guys have any future projects?
Yeah, so Allegheny Riverfront Park, which is situated between the sister bridges on the North Shore, is a park that's been loved to death. It's a place where we are utilizing waterfront development tax credits moving forward, but we really view that park really introducing play, honoring the history of that site, introducing accessible amenities so that folks can get to the park. Super important for us. With the barge located right there, we feel like there's a synergy between improving the open space and the on the water experience. So our hope is that in the next year that project will be underway. So
What's the challenges?
at this point, it's just a gap on fundraising. Right? I mean, we're about 90% on the way through construction drawings, and so it's filling the gap between now and early next year.
So let's shift to waterfront development tax credit. The governor came out with a proposal that essentially kept it in a different name, I guess is the best way of putting it. But what we want to do is keep enhancing it and making sure it's a priority of this region and moving forward. Is there things within the tax credit? We know, like Representative Emily Kinkead, who's going to join us next, has a bill for the waterfront development tax. Can you kind of get into the mix of like what she's doing with this legislation? Yeah,
I think it's good to know that right now, I mean, the program itself has continued to grow, and we've been at, I think, the front edge of leading the growth of the program. So a couple of years ago, we expanded the program statewide from $1.5 million to $5 million. We saw incredible interest in the program in that first year. At the same time, though, there were other tax credit programs that also got boosted. So programs like the Neighborhood Partnership Program.
So what do you mean by boosted?
So the tax credit, the available tax credits within other programs expanded. So, these are programs with $72 million where ours is sitting at $5 million. And then the tax credit amount, right? Ours is a 75% tax credit. There are programs like the Education Improvement Tax Credit and the Neighborhood Partnership Program, which provide 90% tax credits. Yeah.
So I can see it like as a corporation, you're going to invest there first.
Right? Yeah. So you max out on EITC.
You're competing with each other.
You max out on NPP, and then you come down to this waterfront development tax credit. So we've been advocating for the last couple of years to expand the program to a $10 million pot statewide and increase the cap to 90%. That really just makes us competitive with those other programs. And so we're super excited about Representative Kinkead's leadership on this issue to hopefully expand it to $10 million.
Yeah, I can't imagine just in general, like they should just be consistency on the tax credits. Like if you're going to have these thresholds on these other ones, wouldn't you just market them all equally at 90%?
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of reasons for that. I think it is self-interest.
$5 million tax credit, it's not even like that expensive. It's like going to break the budget of a state budget, which we haven't passed yet, of course, as of this recording.
I think, what's good to know is that this program, certainly Pittsburgh has utilized this program, but 64 of the 67 counties have significant waterways. And so we've seen a growing coalition of organizations around the state, like Riverlife, who are utilizing this program. And so, I have the opportunity to travel the country. I talk to other organizations doing waterfront work. They are envious of this program because of how it allows them to really partner with their corporations to fulfill their mission. And so we think there's value there.
Great. So you talked about and you touched upon the other organizations around the state. So this is obviously a statewide program.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate, like what other regions? Are we talking about Erie, Philly? Like where are we looking at these other coalition partners?
Yeah, so big communities, small communities. So the Delaware County folks, east part of the state, Philadelphia has some great projects there. But small communities like Colebrookdale that has this railroad.
It's
Oh, you're going to ask. It's in the middle of the state,
It's in the middle of the state?
Middle east of the state.
Okay.
And they're working on this restoration of a rail line corridor and doing some really interesting things. They've heavily utilized this program. Of course, you've got organizations like Erie, Beaver, Push Beaver in Beaver County. There's another organization, Action Housing, here in Allegheny County that utilizes or is attempting to utilize the program. And so, there is a diversity of users. And one of the things that one of the challenges historically has been, this is a program for Allegheny County or Pittsburgh. No, this is really for the entire Commonwealth to benefit from. And so plenty of water to be developed.
So for the listeners, and how can they help? What can they do for Riverlife, and how can they help, with the Waterfront Development Tax Credit lobbying effort?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that this program allows is for for corporations, small and large corporations to participate. So we've had individuals who have estate tax liability who can actually utilize this program. And so, I think it's a good opportunity that if folks care about riverfront development in their community, this is a way that they can actually invest directly. So maybe they represent a corporation or they're an LLC themselves that have a state tax liability. The other is, I think talking with their legislators about the importance of waterfront development and tools like this is super important. So if there's an audience that they might have at a town hall or in passing at a community parade, saying, hey, I heard Matt talking about this program with Rob. We really think this is an important tool. I mean, what's interesting is projects like Sure Thing that we've seen overwhelming excitement about and folks visiting that space. There is a palpable desire for more and better along our waterways, and the more that your listeners and viewers can communicate that, the better.
So let me get back to the barge. How long is that going to be down there, the Shore Thing?
So we introduced
Shore
Thing. Yeah, we introduced it on right before the 4th of July. It will continue until the 19th of October.
19th of October.
And then we will decommission it and fleet it off site for the winter, and then bring it back next spring.
And anybody can go down there. It's public and they can enjoy it.
It's an extension of the park. There's no purchase necessary. We're super excited to be teaming with BG Brewing out of Braddock to do concessions, and they have non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages. They have a food selection there, but it's a really it's a brand new and necessary, I think, amenity for our riverfronts.
So that last date was October 18th.
October 19th.
19th.
Is the final,
So for all our listeners, make sure you get down on the barge between now and October 19th and check out our riverfront. Well, thanks, Matt. How can our listeners learn more about Riverlife?
Our website is a perfect way for folks to get involved. We have a newsletter that folks can sign up for on that website. It's www.riverlifepgh.org.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the update of what's going on with Riverlife. Up next, we have David Caligiuri. We'll be working with Representative Emily Kinkead.
Welcome to the podcast. Today we are joined by Representative Emily Kinkead. Emily, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it. So today, one of the things we want to talk about is the waterfront development tax credits. But want to talk a little bit also about you and your career in the legislature. So you've been in the legislature for 5 years?
Yeah, this is my 5th year.
And how's that going for you?
I mean, it's certainly got its ups and downs. Right now, we're still negotiating the state budget, which was due June 30th. So it's a sense of being perpetually on call for like 2 months. But I really like it. I like the work. I like the ability to have conversations with people and say, well, that sounds like a solvable problem, and then solve it, which is honestly how I got involved with waterfront tax credits. Is that, I got a phone call about like, hey, we're trying to address this issue, and we were looking for somebody who might be willing to introduce legislation, and it's like, that seems like a solvable problem. Let's solve it. And so now this is how I ended up with that bill.
I think that's great. My colleague Rob called you, and one of the things Rob and I were talking about as we sit here and stare out at the window and stare out the riverfront, we were like, who represents the rivers that makes sense. And your name popped into our head first and foremost. And it's great because of that attitude to say this is a solvable problem. I guess there are quite a few non-solvable problems in the legislature.
Yes. Yeah. Or they feel not solvable.
Right.
Lots of impasses. Although I will say we probably have more solvable problems than not solvable. It's just the not solvable ones, I think, make the press more often.
And some of the, so you're a lawyer by trade, right? Yeah. Do you find that your law degree and that education has helped you in the legislature?
I think so. I think I was able to hit the ground running a lot easier than some other folks that have come on. I know that some of the new legislators that have come after me, I think a lot of them come in a little bit like deer in the headlights because they're like, how do you know? How do you know what's in a bill or how to read a bill or how to, like, you know, if it's good, if it's bad, what your position is on it. And so it is a lot of, you know, kind of helping with that. Because I will say we don't get any actual training to be legislators. There's onboarding.
Not how to be a legislator for a day or anything like that, right?
There's no onboarding at all. There's you go in and you fill out your paperwork like you would on any other job where it's like, you know, benefits and that kind of stuff. And then they're just like, here you go. So there's no like going through and looking at legislation and being able to read and being taught how to read it. And so I have the benefit of, I clerked for 2 years on the Commonwealth Court and I have training as a lawyer and practice as a lawyer. So I have the benefit of being able to read legislation and know how the court is going to interpret it, which is important because words matter and words have specific meanings to the court. Yes, but then also just, you know, the benefit of having gone through law school and practiced and knowing how to kind of read and interpret and argue different issues.
You're Pitt Law?
Yeah, Pitt Law.
When did you graduate?
2016.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm 2000.
Oh, okay.
Pitt Law. But as I tell everyone, I'm a non-practicing lawyer, so you can trust me.
Yeah, you're in recovery.
I'm in recovery. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the tax credits and why they're so important to not only our region but to the Commonwealth, right? So the current tax credit program is a $5 million tax credit that gets 75% of the rebate back to those that participate, right? And the governor's administration has cut that from his proposed budget. We're trying to save that.
Yes.
And I think
and increase the reimbursement.
Exactly. And I think, we want to increase it from $5 million to $10 million and increase the reimbursement from 75% to 90%.
Mm-hmm. Which brings it in line with other tax credits. So, you know, for those listening who are like, they're getting 75%, you want 90? Yeah. It actually makes it more of a tax credit that folks want to participate in, because why would they be contributing to waterfront development and getting 75% of their investment back when they could be contributing to something else and getting 90% of it back?
Right. I mean, right, in a perfect world, we all want to participate and give to good causes. And I think a lot of people do, especially to, Riverlife here in Pittsburgh and participate in these tax credits. But the reality of it is, if you're losing 15%.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that I will say that I don't think that we talk about enough is that when you're giving out tax credits from the government, the other aspect of it is that it triggers other really important things like prevailing wage. Mm-hmm. So, it ensures that the people who are going to be building these developments are going to be getting a living wage, and they're going to be getting the kinds of care and treatment that people who are doing this work should actually be getting. They're getting the benefits that they should be getting, and we are getting, as the public, quality build things.
Oh my gosh, right. And I think that's such an important part of the tax credits that people forget, is that they're employing hundreds of Pittsburghers, hundreds of people, Pennsylvanians, right, to do the work, and they're experienced. They're trained by labor organizations that, have some of the best workers in the Commonwealth. And so it's really important, and it often goes, I think, unnoticed.
Yeah. So I know, especially on the Democratic side, there's a lot of conversations about like, why are we giving tax credits to these wealthy corporations? And it's a reasonable conversation to have. But I do think that we also need to acknowledge that the other benefit of tax credits is that we, as the public, as the government, are able to incentivize these major corporations to also ensure that it's quality work and that we're paying workers an adequate wage. And that's how we do it with tax credits.
And the tax credit programs, I mean, there are so many other tax credit programs that are really successful. And I mean, that's been the knock, I think, on this program is that it's been underutilized, right?
I was in Chicago for the very first time ever. I'd never been to Chicago before until last summer I went. And Chicago has this incredible waterfront, this riverfront. And what I think is most remarkable about it is that they had the foresight to require public access to the waterfront when no one wanted to be at the waterfront because it smelled so bad, because the rivers were so polluted and so dirty. But someone somewhere said, this is going to be an asset to Chicago. And so we are going to make sure that if you are developing on the waterfront, that you have to provide a public throughway on every aspect of the riverfront that there is. And now they have this amazing riverfront walkway. It goes all across the rivers. And Pittsburgh is perfectly positioned to be able to do that. And yet every time somebody from out of town comes here, they are always like, you have so much waterfront property. Why is there like one riverfront restaurant? Why is there just not anything, that you can really do on the riverfront?
It's so funny you just mentioned that, right? Riverfront restaurants?
Yeah.
Like, where is it? Where is the one?
It's Redfin Blues.
Redfin Blues.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only one.
Yeah,
yeah,
the only one.
amazing.
It's the only one that's actually on the river. Now you
Right.
can like make an argument that like the North Shore stuff is like you can see the river, but they're not actually on the river the way that Redfin Blues is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can access it, but
Yes.
they're not on the river.
Yeah.
Right. Do you utilize the rivers?
I have started to.
Right.
And again, it's kind of funny because my nephews fish. And
Okay.
it had never occurred to me to like fish in the rivers. I know that it's healthy, but it's like, I don't fish. I know nothing about it. So it hadn't occurred to me that this was like a thing that you could do recreationally in Pittsburgh. To me, that's like, they live in rural Pennsylvania. So I'm like, that's a thing that you do in rural Pennsylvania.
Right,
You
it's
don't do it
creeks.
here in
Lakes.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, we,
Right.
and we actually helped the Fish and Boat Commission restock fish down at the point the week that they came out as well.
Right.
So there are fish that are there intended for people to fish recreationally, but also you can do like paddleboarding and kayaking, and every time there's a Pirates game, there's a bunch of boats out on the water, kind of like listening to the game. It's great.
It's amazing, right? So our offices are here in Oxford Center, and over the last 2 summers, I've watched people jet ski, water ski, boating constantly.
There's a trampoline out there. I don't know whose trampoline it is, but it's
a
tied up,
trampoline,
and
right?
I like every time I walk by it, I'm like, I just want to jump on the trampoline.
So I feel like here in Pittsburgh, we want to really use the rivers so much more. And I feel as though we're shooting ourselves in the foot by killing this tax credit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how do we get to the governor? I mean, how do we let him know that this is something that people want to take advantage of and that what it can do for the city is amazing, not just here in Pittsburgh, right? Because that's another knock against, I think, the waterfront development tax credits is that folks across Pennsylvania might look at this and say, well, this is the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is a Pittsburgh thing. It's a Philly thing,
Right.
as so many things are. I mean, this is the conversation we're constantly having about public transit. Turns out public transit exists in all 67 counties. There are 32 different transit authorities all across Pennsylvania. They serve all 67 counties. So there is public transit. There's also waterfront property everywhere in Pennsylvania. And so,
point.
you actually you're looking at places like Allentown are also trying right now to really develop their waterfront areas. and this tax credit would help them. But it's also, you go up to places that have lakes and rivers. You go, Tioga County, Juniata County, wherever that have, any kind of access to waterfront property, and you can develop it with this tax credit.
Right. That's such a great point. This isn't just to the big cities and the rivers, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, this includes any sort of waterfront development. So lakes, well, I don't know about streams, but whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, hey, there's an argument to be made. If you can, if you can.
If there's a waterfront. Yeah. So you held a public hearing.
Last week. Yeah. Feels like 4 weeks ago, but it actually was just last week.
On the river.
Yes, at Shore Thing, which is one of maybe the coolest places I've ever been.
Unbelievable! What a cool space.
Yeah.
What did you take from that hearing, especially from your colleagues too?
I mean, I think that a lot of folks are interested in the idea, and I think that having it on Shore Thing, which is just that incredible barge platform that you'd never think like I don't know where this idea came from. It was one of the conversations we had. I was like, explain to me how you guys got to this point where you were like, this is a thing that we want to do.
You're too young to remember Donzi's, right?
I know of it, but yeah, I'm too young.
Donzi's was a barge. It was a bar.
It was a barge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. That's floated away since then. Right.
Well, we're hoping that Shore Thing does not.
Yeah, this is not going anywhere.
But yeah, it's. I think that being able to actually be on Shore Thing and see it and experience it really helped to kind of drive home to my colleagues that waterfront property and waterfront development is not the same thing all the time. It can look different ways. You can get creative with it, and it can serve, different populations. And so I think that, that way I think was a really important takeaway for folks. But I think also it's really just the recognition that Pennsylvania is really not investing in waterfront development anywhere. And that we have the opportunity to do that. I think a lot of these policy hearings that we hold, it's important when we're talking about those kinds of things. It's great to kind of highlight things that we already know about, but I think it's more important to talk about the things that we don't know about and how we can be better and really have Pennsylvania leading the nation.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great point. What are some of the other bigger issues that you're working on?
So I'm the chair of the Legislative Hunger Caucus, the House chair.
Right. So
I work a lot on hunger issues, which, especially with the stuff that's going on at the federal level, the cuts to SNAP, the cuts to Medicaid, the USDA actually cut already, and that's, the SNAP benefits are not going to really get cut until 2026. Yeah. The work requirements and whatnot are in place, and there's kind of rolling issues that people are going to get kicked off soon. But the USDA cut the local food purchase assistance program, $13 million from Pennsylvania already out of nowhere. This is money that was already appropriated to Pennsylvania, just not paying it. And that hurts our farmers as much as it hurts, people who are hungry, because what that money does is allows our food banks to buy local food. And so they're buying it from farmers in Pennsylvania, taking it to the food bank and giving it to people who are hungry and need assistance. And so, the fact that we lost $13 million at, stroke of a pen makes it really hard, because Governor Shapiro in his budget proposed an $8 million increase to collectively to the state food purchase program and to the Pennsylvania agricultural surplus system. Those are our two main anti-hunger programs at the state level. And so the state food purchase, or the state food purchase program, SFPP, allows food banks to buy in bulk. And then the Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System, PASS, allows reimbursement for farmers to actually donate any excess that they have, so that it doesn't go to waste, and then they're reimbursed for their cost. I would actually like to see sort of a combination of those programs happen where food banks can actually purchase at, maybe a lower cost in bulk surplus food from farmers, so that they're not just getting reimbursed for the cost, they're actually making, to a degree, a profit, which is what the local food purchase assistance program does from the federal level. But so the governor proposed $4 million for each of those programs, $8 million total. And the unfortunate thing is, if we can get that $8 million into this budget, that now, instead of being an $8 million increase to those programs, effectively is flat funding them because of the loss of the local food purchase assistance.
Is that part of the budget? Do we know? You think it's gonna make it through?
It's been something that's been, we're talking about. It's certainly been something that I have been banging the drum about in our caucus of this needs to be part of the budget, because we can't. People are gonna get really hurt with these SNAP cuts. And our farmers are going to get hurt. And, agriculture is our top industry in Pennsylvania. A lot of people don't realize that. And if we are not feeding people, we are not benefiting farmers. And so we have to be cognizant of that. So that's a thing that I've been working on, and trying to get universal school meals in Pennsylvania so that kids can eat regardless of family income. That's kind of I've been working on that a lot. I also have one of the proposed bills to legalize marijuana.
Right.
So, and again, this is sort of goes to me basically being like, this sounds like a solvable problem. Let's solve it. I don't.
You would think.
I don't. I don't use marijuana. I never have. But it largely was we should stop talking about this issue, and we should just kind of put language out there and see, throw something at the wall, see what sticks. Let's get some feedback on actual language. And so last session, Aaron Coffer, a Republican from Luzerne, I think, and I introduced the first ever bipartisan legalization bill in the House. And I really thought it was this is just gonna be a marker bill. This will be a language proposal. Right. But I was a second term member that last session. And so I was like, I do not have the seniority enough. I'm not in leadership. My name is not going to be on the bill that legalizes cannabis ultimately. But it set off a firestorm. Right. And, which I think has
people talking.
It's had the benefit of actually getting us, I think, to a much more serious place about legalization. I don't think that we're going to get legalization done with this budget, but I still am optimistic that we can get it done this session. So maybe with the next budget. We need the revenue, and it creates a ton of jobs, and we are bleeding money into other states because every state that touches Pennsylvania, except for West Virginia, has legalized. Yeah. And they have set up their dispensaries all along our border.
Yeah, just drive across the border to Ohio. Yeah. You'll see them. They're all there. It's amazing. Even, in New York, you name it. Yeah. Well, that's great. So we've learned a lot about the fact that there's probably a lot more people that use our rivers than we realize. There's a lot of boaters in Allegheny County, more I think than
I know so many people with boats that I didn't realize had boats. I was like, holy cow.
Emily, that's the best, right? You don't want to own a boat. You just want to have a friend who owns a boat.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Insight and Influence. To learn more about CNG strategies and to access previous editions, visit our website at cgstrategiespa.com.